He's the voice behind the global direct booking movement, and today he's challenging everything that you thought you knew.
I started to show hosts how to do this thing called direct bookings, and it started in my little town of Scarborough. And for some bizarre reason, technically 10 years later, it's now become a worldwide brand.
It's Mark Simpson, the founder of Boostly and the global authority on direct bookings for short-term rentals.
We're very fortunate that there are probably 3 websites that you can go start a business today, put pictures on tomorrow. Depending on where your market is and the time of the year, be guaranteed to get revenue coming in at some point. So we're very lucky. So that's a blessing.
We dive into tech stacks, guest avatars, how your website might be killing your conversions. Oh, and if you're still not using AI, Mark's got a few words and use cases for you.
That's what I teach, I talk about on a daily basis. And I think the big misconception about me and direct bookings and what I talk about is that people think I'm going to tell you to delete your listing on Airbnb. Couldn't be further from the truth.
My name is Jason Muth. I am a 31-time Airbnb superhost. I've worked in the media business for over 25 years, and in 2016, I launched my Chapter 2 in the world of short-term rentals. Since then, I've welcomed over 5,000 guests and their furry friends to our homes. And we're here to show you how to create a smart stay. Now, it's Mark Simpson. Rory, we finally got Mark Simpson on Smart Stay Show. Isn't this such an exciting day when we have these monumental people that have just graced every stage in the short-term rental world? He's done the conference circuit. He's a presence online. Even if you're not following Mark's stuff, you probably see his face pop up every so often because everyone tags him when everyone's talking about direct bookings. Mark, welcome to the show.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I was trying to figure out, am I the first British person on this show? I couldn't really figure that out.
So you are the first British person on Smart Stay Show, not the first British person on this podcast, because we used to be called the Real Estate Law Podcast, and we did have a gentleman on many eons ago from the UK. But
There you go.
so you are the first one on Smart Stay Show. So, we'll have to send you a pin and a hat. And then when you appear 4 more times, like on Saturday Night Live, you actually get a jacket with the number 5 on it. Yeah. So Rory, you and I know Mark just from lurking at his content, right? We've seen him talking about direct bookings for many, many years and the importance of booking direct. And as a listener, I don't want to assume that you know exactly who Mark is. So I want to have Mark kind of give an opportunity to explain a little bit about what he's done in this industry, what he believes up to this point. And then I can't wait to get into this conversation about why it's important to book direct and use technology and really think about your business in the years to come and not where it's been. So with that, Mark, when you're when you're at a cocktail party and people, don't know that you're in the short-term rental industry, what do you explain to them as to how you spend your time, how you earn your money, and how you impact lives?
Yeah. So the first thing that I sort of say when I speak to somebody who doesn't really understand the industry, I'll just go, well, there's people who put their property on Airbnb to get bookings. I show people how to get more bookings, but without relying on Airbnb to do so. And I'm one of these rare breeds. I was born into this industry. So I grew up in a 200-acre farm. There was a farm stay bed and breakfast way back in the late 80s, early 90s. And, I was always just so used to having strangers in my house. I grew up in a very small B&B, and there was strangers there all the time. And I joked that, when I first started going to play dates at friends' house, I was wondering where the people were. So I was always used to just having people in my kitchen. But yeah, I grew up in it, did pocket money, changing beds, and tried my hardest to escape this industry, but it just keeps pulling me back. I was a coach in America, a soccer coach, but for many, many years, but then ended up back in the industry. And then, in 2016, I started to show hosts how to do this thing called direct bookings, and it started in my little town of Scarborough. And for some bizarre reason, technically 10 years later, it's now become a worldwide brand. And it's and here I am speaking to you chaps.
I want to go back actually to the farm stay before we get off of that, just because when I look at the direct booking movement, in some ways it's an evolution of the existing OTA, Airbnb, Vrbo, surge, but it's also returned to how things used to be before the online travel agencies kind of took control. So back in the day, how did people book? Like before we had this big Airbnb explosion, how did the industry work?
So when my parents first got started, there was no Airbnb, like you mentioned. There was no online. There was no anything really. They got attention through newspaper ads, magazine ads, and word of mouth. That was literally how they first got their guests. But it worked. I think we're in the industry, and our business is about making memories. I mean, that's the core thing of what we're selling. Is that doesn't matter whether a guest comes and stays with you for one night, 2 nights, whether it's a conference, whether it's a business trip, or if they come to stay with you for a few months, like you are making a memory. They will memorize maybe not the place that they stay, but the place that they visited for years to come. And if you do a good job, that's half your marketing done for you because they'll go home, they'll tell their family, their friends, they'll talk about you on social media, etc. So I feel like back in the day, it was just a simple case of word of mouth and newspaper ads. And then when I came back into the family business, it was about 2011, 2012. Just before then, me and my now wife, we'd moved down to London, and I started working at a company called Quip that was bought by Yelp, so the big review site basically. And I was doing their sales and marketing. And I learned so much in that role about how Google works, about TripAdvisor, how, social media worked. And so when I came back into the family business, I was able to take 25 years of offline word of mouth and put it all online with social media and whatnot. And so yeah, even in like early 2011, like Airbnb wasn't really still got going probably until like middle of the teens. So we were using booking.com. That's a big OTA giant in the UK, Europe, and probably more to the east. It's getting bigger and bigger over in the US. Expedia, which is, they bought Verbo. And then obviously then Airbnb came along. And so, yeah, we've just sort of utilized every sort of thing that we possibly could over the years. But I think the core thing that still sticks to this day, and everybody that you have on your show, and I know a lot of guests that you've had on your show, they will talk about that word of mouth virality that then obviously takes it onto social media. That's how they go and get their own direct bookings.
So we've been at this since 2016. So not quite as long as you, but I remember when we bought our first second home, Rory and I were like, I don't know, I guess we got to make some money now with this property. We have the second mortgage that, was down the street from where his parents have now retired. That's where it all started. And I was like, I think I've heard of this thing called Airbnb. This is me physically saying this in 2016. Okay. At
Mhm.
that point, you probably have already, been down the road with Airbnb and sort of formulating your opinions. And I decided to launch the property on Airbnb and Verbo and TripAdvisor, I believe. I think I received one booking from TripAdvisor ever. That was it. One ever. And then Verbo, back in the day, I was probably getting 30% from Verbo, maybe 35, to the point that I actually subscribed for my first two properties and paid the subscription fee for the lower, per guest fee or per
Mhm.
booking fee. And I still get a lot from Verbo, but not quite at that level. Things have really shifted toward Airbnb. And you would probably suggest, and we were talking about one of our previous guests, Rose Tipka, earlier, and I remember when she was talking about how many guests she got directly. I think she has like 70 or 80% direct bookings through her properties through a lot of hard work that she's done.
Mm.
Um, but we get so many bookings through Airbnb, as do many people. And Airbnb, at least here in the US, has become the brand name. It's become the Google and the Xerox and the Kleenex, right? So when people think of short-term rentals, they think of Airbnb. Sometimes when we're optimizing titles for our shows, we use Airbnb because it's easier to say that than short-term rental, right? Airbnb, as much as we like it, I don't know if you have a vendetta against them, because your new YouTube channel is like the channel that Airbnb doesn't want you to find. I think that's your
Mhm.
copy right there,
Yeah.
right? Um, and Airbnb has gotten into some sticky issues this year here in the United States. We're recording this in 2025. And, one of their founders is on the Doge group, which is everyone's talking about it in all the Airbnb community leader forums that I'm in. So it's just another reason why it might be important to diversify away from Airbnb, despite the fact that we and many people listening get so many bookings from Airbnb. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack. So the first thing I would say is that for a lot of industries out there, we are very unique in the world of hospitality because, you know, there's no other industry that I know where you can start a business, take a couple of pictures, go and upload it on a random site and pretty much be guaranteed to get revenue coming in. And again, it comes back to what are we selling? We're selling experiences. Everybody loves to go on vacations, staycations, etc. If we've been able to survive the biggest shutdown of our lifetimes, lockdowns, and it's still testament to the case that people were still traveling them. So because of that, we're very fortunate that there are probably 3 websites that you can go start a business today, put pictures on tomorrow, depending on where your market is and the time of the year, be guaranteed to get revenue coming in at some point. So we're very lucky. So that's a blessing. It's a curse because when you start a business, there's so many spinning plates. Okay. So there's all these things that you've got to do on a day-to-day basis. And if one of those plates is spinning, and that's marketing, that's sales. And if you can just go, well, that's taken care of by Airbnb, that's taken care of by one place, that's brilliant. But the problem is that you become so reliant on that one platform for sales to come in. That plate is spinning because you're reliant on one major place. What happens when it stops spinning? What happens when bookings stop coming in? And that could be for a number of reasons. It's not just for one reason. It could be that, number one, you get a couple of sticky reviews. So you may drop off the first page of, search. It may be that, God forbid, your listing gets suspended or canceled or deleted for the most innocent of things. And, you're in the Facebook groups, you're at these conferences, they happen on a daily basis now because Airbnb isn't such a small company anymore. It's huge. And they have got, you know, um, maybe robots answering these customer things now, or not very skilled people. And obviously they're going to side with the guests. The one that I saw last week was the guest complained to Airbnb that they said there's cameras in the property. Airbnb shut down the listing, suspend the listing for further investigation. The guest can't get a hold of Airbnb to say, listen, that's not a camera, that's a Ring camera. It's allowed. But obviously they suspend it and stuff. And that's 6 weeks. That's 6 weeks of revenue gone. That's listings suspended, that's guests cancelled, and that's where you can't promote yourself. So that's the thing that happens on a daily basis, and that's the problem. And so what I say to every host is, obviously Boostly is all about telling hosts about direct bookings, right? But the most important thing that you all need to do, whether you're at property 1 and you're the first 6 months into your journey, or whether you're at property 15 and you're at 10 years into your journey, you've got to diversify, like you say, diversify your income. You've got to diversify where people can find your business. And again, I always talk about other businesses. Think about a personal trainer, right? A personal trainer hasn't got an Airbnb that they can go and list their services on. They have to go and build their brand. They have to do outreach, cold outreach. They have to, build a social media presence. They have to do all of the things to even get their first customer in. If I was speaking to a PT now and they said to me, Mark, I'm really struggling to get in customers, I'm really struggling to get in bookings, and I go, okay, well, how are you promoting yourself? Well, I'm just posting in this one Facebook group. This one Facebook group is where I'm just posting, and that's it. I'll go, well, try doing something else, try doing more. And that's the same advice that I bring back into the world of hospitality. I go, listen, you've got Airbnb, get listed on your Verbo, get listed on your booking.com, get listed on all the places that you can. So you've got multiple streams of where people can find you. And then once you've done that, we'll obviously talk about property management software tool very soon, PMS, then you can start to think about getting that so they can come to you direct. And I think that's at the core, that's what I teach, I talk about on a daily basis. And I think the big misconception about me and direct bookings and what I talk about is that people think I'm going to tell you to delete your listing on Airbnb. Couldn't be further from the truth. Be on Airbnb, right? I don't have a vendetta against them. I love the platform. I think the story is fantastic, all that. My vendetta and my qualm is more against the host who are so reliant on that one platform who won't do anything else about it. And I feel that that's where the breakdown in the messaging sort of happens.
We're kinda at the point right now with our co-hosting business, when we onboard properties, we get the Airbnb listing correct first, so, like, when we send it over to the owner, we send over that link, and then once they approve all the copy and everything, then we, transpose a lot of that into the Vrbo link and our direct booking site, which we build off of, um it's, Market My STR is what we're using, so they're on Go High Level, for landing pages, and then we personally have Hospitable as our property management software, and they actually have a pretty big push on direct bookings as well. They have a direct booking website, and a widget that we could put onto the direct booking websites. And I know that with Boostly, you're building websites and you have a whole different infrastructure, which I'd love to talk about on this as well. But that's kind of what our system has been up to this point, just 'cause it seems like it's worked out that we have to win on Airbnb to win overall. But you're suggesting that even a new host, like if you're listening to this and you're about to buy your first second home, you're not saying don't go on Airbnb, but you are saying that you also can nurture your direct bookings as well. So they're a pretty significant component of your future bookings. Is that correct?
Yeah. The biggest mistake that I see people make is they start their strategy on Airbnb, which is totally fine, right? So you've got the one property and you've got one unit, one house, whatever it is, whether it's owned, co-host, however you want to break it down. And you've got that one property and it's just on Airbnb. And then they go and get that second property. Okay. So suddenly you've gone from being one property to two properties. And then you're no longer just one property, two property. You've got a brand here. You've got a business that you're starting. And what they do is they'll go, right, I've got two properties now on Airbnb. And this is where it really starts to get sticky on the root of just being on Airbnb is that they go, well, bookings are a little slow. I want to tap into this other market, which could be Vrbo or booking.com. So they go and create a listing on Vrbo and they haven't got a PMS. So that's still over here. And they go, well, I don't want to have a double booking. So what am I going to do? I'm going to connect my Vrbo calendar to the Airbnb calendar. And this is the problem is that you're building everything now on that Airbnb land. So Airbnb is the central zone of truth. But again, that's the big problem that they make. So my suggestion is even at property one, you start off by grabbing the property management software tool, the PMS. Okay. So Hospitable, there's loads. And again, depending on budget, there's some that are free to get started on, which is great. Some that cost a couple of dollars. And then you've got the high end ones. As you grow your business, you can go reach out to the guesties, the hostaways, etc. Like running a hospitality business is just like running any business. You start off scrappy. It's like playing a video game. So just like when you first start playing Mario, you're tiny, you've got no tools. Eventually, as you level up, you get all the tools and you can go take on Bowser, right? So it's the same with this. You start off scrappy. You've got to take advantage of all the free stuff or cheap stuff that you can do. But that doesn't mean even at property one that you can't have a property management software tool. Just grab one, anyone, because then that will be your central zone of truth. Because then you connect that to Airbnb, you connect that to Vrbo, booking.com. And once you've got that, again, just for whatever reason, let's just say Airbnb shuts you down for whatever reason, then it chops off that arm, but then you've still got all these other arms going off to Vrbo, booking.com, so you can still have potential revenue and bookings coming in. And that's the biggest issue that I see hosts make at the early stage.
And if Airbnb does chop off the arm, like you suggested, it could be chopped off forever, or it could be a temporary chop off. But either way, it's going to be a struggle to your business if you don't have those other tentacles. Rory, that was the first Mario reference we've ever had on this show, which is great. I appreciate that. As
Hey, my pleasure. I'm a big
child
video
of
game
gaming.
fan, so
Yes, absolutely. We're not gamers as much anymore. We should have, but I went through a huge Mario Kart cycle, 10 years ago, and our daughter does like Mario Kart, but I used to love Mario back in the day. Um,
yeah. Well, my
I,
kids are getting to the age now where they're getting video games. I've got 4 kids, and they're all
yeah, I
getting into
saw
the
that.
video game stage of their lives now, which is good for me because I used to be a big gamer back in the day. Growing up in a village, you don't really get much social activities or invites. So I was big in the video games back in the day. So it's nice now that I can come back into that all these years later on the Switch.
What do the kids think that dad does for work?
So they know Boostly. They just say Boostly. The 12-year-old's a bit smarter. He knows that, but like you ask the 2-year-old and well, the 6-year-old, and he'll just say Boostly. So
Ours is just upset that like we're working. She's like, she doesn't quite understand the fact that this is how money comes in to feed her and give her all the chicken nuggets she wants. Yeah. Um, all right, so Boostly's been around for a couple of years now, right? I mean, like I don't want to get the history of your company wrong, so please correct me. But like, I understand you as the company that is always promoting direct bookings. On your Instagram page, you're saying that the mission is to help you get 65% direct bookings. It's a great mission to have, and you develop beautiful websites and have for many many years. But how do you characterize the business now? Like, how is it evolving into where short-term rentals have gone?
yeah, so the mission has always been to help hosts with direct bookings. The reason why it started was in 2016, I was still very heavy in the family business. We eventually exited in 2021, the family farm. But in 2016, I read a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4 Hour Work Week. And I was like, my eyes were open because up until that point, especially where I am in the UK, in the northern east of the UK, everybody is likes to wear that busy badge of pride on their sleeve. We never ask for help, never ask for nothing. You do everything yourself. And then when I read that book, I was like, wow, there's this thing called virtual assistants. And, they're based in the Philippines and I can set a task. I can go to sleep and I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be done. And I was like, mind blown. My parents didn't buy into it in any way, shape or form, but, I just went ahead and did it. And I hired a few out and, there was no Fiverr back then or Upwork wasn't a thing. I think I just freelancer.com. I don't know why I went on, discovered them. And I pretty much sacked myself in the family business. And it enabled me to go and do cool stuff and go and meet cool people. And one of the things I started doing was going to tourism meetings. And at these tourism meetings, there was bed and breakfast owners, hotel owners, short stay accommodation owners. About 100 people would meet every 3 months. And it was at this meeting I realized that so many people were struggling when it comes to marketing their business. Nobody really knew about Facebook. No one really knew about email marketing. And it was at one of those meetings I just naively said, listen, we have 80% of our bookings come direct. It's because of, email, social, website, the things that I implemented in our business. I'm happy to walk you through a few things. And, 5 people put their hand up, and that's the first 5 people I ever coached doing it. And that transpired into a Facebook group called the Hospitality Community. It's still going to this day, 10 years later. So you're all more than welcome to come and join it. And yeah, I just basically showed up every single day in that Facebook group and just gave little help bits and advice. And then a year later, what I noticed was that people were starting to join from further afield. So we had people from Scotland, Ireland, France and Spain were like knocking on the door of the group to join. And then there was America and New Zealand. And I was like, what is going on here? And I realized there was obviously a need for this like direct bookings chat, even back in 2017. And it got to a point where I was answering more questions from hosts on direct bookings than I was questions from guests who were coming to stay with us. And my wife was like, listen, you got to do something about this. And that just transpired into being Boostly. Boostly is short for Boost Hospitality. And yeah, that's what founded. And the core of it has always been the tools, the tactics, the training, and the confidence for you to grow your business and get direct bookings. That's it. And along the way, we've evolved and we've brought in things like website design. I was doing loads of training videos about how your website should be structured, but I had so many hosts coming back to me saying, listen, this is all well and good, but my web design is not very good. I don't know how to do it. And, it got to a point where I was just like, right, well, if no one else is doing it, I'll do it. And we started doing website design. And then we just, again, evolved along the way in 2021. So just as lockdowns were starting to sort of slowly start to lift, we realized that there was a huge need for people wanting to build out direct booking websites. They didn't know how, they were getting in trouble and they just couldn't figure it out. And again, I noticed that our booking flow, because we build everything on WordPress, was a bit stagnated. So we started to go to Guesty, go to Hospitable, go to all these big companies and ask for an integration. So they gave us that, which was very kind of them. And so we started to build out these API integrations, which has been the key to our sort of growth, because there's only 3 website companies in the world who have these these API integrations into from WordPress to the PMS. And when you've got these API integrations, it just means for a direct booking website, when they land on the homepage, they can go on a really smooth flow to the booking part of the page. And unless you've got these integrations, you don't have it. I mean, you've all seen it on these WordPress sites where you click 1, 2, 3, and then you go to book, and it goes nowhere, you know. And so that's been the evolution. That's now become our unique selling point. We've got 27 integrations now, and talk about Market My STR. They build on Go High Level. And what we've done is we've actually built an integration into the app marketplace on Go High Level as well. So you're able just to sync all of your important details into the places where you want it to go. Because otherwise, it's a lot of copy and pasting, which is what we've realized. And yeah, we've always kept the training part at the core of Boostly. So we do twice a week coaching calls, and we do training videos, and we're always updating it, which is at the core. And it's kind of, I wouldn't call it a full done for you model. I wouldn't call it a DIY model. I call it a done with you. So, you know, we give you all the tools, give you all the training, give you all the confidence, and we have like this big community together. It's about 1,000 hosts in there now, and we're just basically striving to get you towards that 65% direct booking number.
Do people have to be a paid member to be part of that community and the coaching calls?
Yeah, at the moment, well, yes, they have to be paid, because obviously I've got 30 members of staff that need paying. So it's part of the paid thing. We have still got the free Facebook group. That is free. That will always be free. But for the next level deep, then that's the paid, and that's the $97 dollars a month. Doesn't matter how many properties you've got. And then the only difference is if you want to have one of our websites or not. If you want us to build your website, that's a couple of grand. If you want to just jump in at the $97 a month, you don't want to have the website, you're happy with the website, but you'd like, because we've got our own version of Go High Level within Boostly, which is what we call the Boostly CRM. So it's cool, and I like it. I've only recently delved deep in this Go High Level world, and it is cool what you can do. So we can put in templates, email templates, funnels, everything that obviously others use as well. And what I've come to realize is not just Market My STR use it, loads of people now use it and white label their service and offer it as well. So we've got the training, yeah, so that's basically what we do at Boostly.
Going back to your analogy there with the spinning plates, the one nice thing about just abdicating some business responsibilities to Airbnb is that you can just kind of rely on their marketing, their promotion of the property, their back end and everything. But I hear quite clearly from you that that creates a dependency for your business, but also and then I definitely hear the value in having your own website that actually functions in a way that works for the most part, but also gives confidence to the guest that this is a proper business. But give us a little bit more insight to the tools and the tactics of what short-term rental owners can do to actually get people to go to those websites, to get traffic, and to start working toward the 65% direct booking.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like I said, the Airbnb is a phenomenal tool to have in your toolkit, but you can't rely on it, because if you build your house on somebody else's land, you're just going to get in trouble. So the core thing that what I teach, and I think the one that I keep coming back to time and time and time again, is sales and marketing, promotion. And whenever you say that word sales, a lot of people, depending on their personality type, will either go, yep, sound, get me to it, or they'll just wilter and go, no, I can't do that. But at the end of the day, if you can't talk about yourself and your business, then who is, right? And I obviously talk about social media because it's the easiest thing you can do. We have got the world's best camera inside our smartphones right now, and you literally just point it and picture it. And again, what are we selling? We're selling an experience to our customers, right? So you can easily go and document why your property, why your location. And I feel this is the big problem that people fall into, is when they start selling their business, they instantly fall back on talking about the property, when really what you need to be doing is you need to become that brand ambassador of where your property is. Rose will 100%, I haven't checked out her episode, but 100% she would have spoken about the ideal guest avatar, knowing your guest, right? Because that is the key part. it's the thing that I taught her years ago, and now she goes and talks about it elsewhere, which is fantastic. It's knowing your ideal guest. Is your guest avatar. That basically means you've got to picture who your ideal guest is, the ideal person you want walking through that door, whether it is a solo traveler, whether it is couples, whether they have dogs or animals or kids, whether it is a massive group for a party, whether it is the boomers, whether Gen Z, Gen X, sustainable, whatever, right? There are so many avatars out there in the world. You just have to focus on one, and it based around your brand and your branding, right? And the cool thing about what we're selling, if you've got one property, it's even easier because you've, out of all of the millions of bookings that happen on the world of short-term rentals on a yearly basis, you just need to get 50 of them. Let's just say on average, just for this instant little terminology we're going to do here, example, say you have a week stays, right? You've got one property. You just have to find 50 people, 50 bookings over a course of a year, 2 weeks for maintenance, and you want to stay there, right? Easy. But the problem that so many people make is that they try and appeal to everybody. And when you appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody. So when it comes to sales and marketing, it gets super easy, super quick. And this is, we've talked about the book Direct Playbook. My first book that I put out there is the biggest chapter in the book is that, because when you can master that, everything becomes so easy. It just means that the terminology that you write down, the copy that you put together, the pictures that you put out there, your listings on Airbnb will become so much easier because you are speaking to your ideal guest. And when your ideal guest is scrolling the land of the internet looking for a place to stay, yours will stand out much more than somebody that just puts very generic description and listing out there. So that's, I say, that's probably one-on-one what you could do to get started.
So as we start to wrap up this discussion, I do want to talk about tech and AI, and because first of all, if you don't follow, we'll put all the links in the description for how to follow you, Boostly UK, on Instagram, and you have such great cheeky content. It's always funny, it's
Yeah.
always informative. I think Mark, you do a good job in not taking yourself too seriously, despite the fact that we're all talking about serious subjects here. You're also a big proponent in where we're headed, like not just in the short-term rental world, but like how to use technology for your short-term rental marketing, sales, properties, without digging too much into all of the tech companies that all sound like they have the same name. Like besides ChatGPT, they all have some weird derivation of some term that sounds like
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is. Um, what should people be doing right now in utilizing AI to help make their lives easier, and to make the management of their properties more efficient?
So there's always like three categories when you start talking about AI in the future. You've either got people that are right down the rabbit hole. They're like, right, I'm all for this. Literally, give me every single model that is out there, which is probably me. I'm right down there. You've got the other side of the spectrum where they literally digging their head in a hole, going, nah, not for this. Leave me alone. Give me a pen and paper any day. And you've got the people in the middle who are like teetering on both sides. And my advice to everybody is to just start to pay attention to it. Those of you that are digging your head in a sand hole and saying that, then unfortunately, AI isn't gonna like replace jobs. It's gonna be replaced by the people who are using this technology, and that's gonna happen very quick. And the bizarre thing is that at the moment, it is being used mostly by geeks of AI and business owners. That is who is primarily using it on a day-to-day basis. By the end of this year, everybody is going to be using it, even if they realize it or not, right? And prime example that I think about is you've got your Apple phone, you've got your Androids and all these devices. They're about to get a huge upgrade. Your smart devices at home, Alexa, Google, etc., they're all about to get a huge upgrade. And you can go right now onto your Apple phone and it's already got AI built into it. You go into your notes, you go into your emails. The ads that Apple are running is about people that are not very good at writing an email. Suddenly it will rewrite the email for them and make it better. that's where we're at right now, and it's only going to become more and more. Before you know it, we're going to have robots walking around doing tasks for us, right? Doing our cleans, so to speak. Where would I get started is I would honestly download ChatGPT app onto your phone. It's free, it's simple to use, it's really, really, really easy to get started on it. And what I would do is I would take a picture of your listing on Airbnb and I would ask for it to read the copy, read the text, and to rewrite it based on who you want to be walking through the door. And if you're struggling on who you think your avatar should be, go and grab a copy of this, the Book Diary Playbook, go and read that chapter. And if you want to be even more cheeky, you could take a picture of the chapters and upload it into ChatGPT and say, right, read this. Now go and amend my title based off what the book is saying. It's that good that you can literally just take pictures of things and it will help merge what you want to do. And it's free, simple. You can even call it now. You can even video it now, and it will help you get started. So that's where I would honestly start to use it, is to download it onto your phone and start checking in and using it on a day-to-day basis.
Rory and I have talked about how AI is clearly augmenting jobs, replacing jobs in many situations. Who knows where all of our kids are going to be working in the future, year 4 and R1. What we love about real estate is that people still are going to travel, in our opinion, and they still need to sleep somewhere until they figure out how to allow our bodies not to need sleep. People are still going to need beds to lay down in. And so it kind of helps all of us in this industry continue to survive when a lot of jobs are getting displaced with AI. But we're utilizing AI ourselves. I mean, like a lot of the things that you mentioned, ChatGPT is a really great starting point. We actually subscribe to it. We've built a couple GPTs, if that's what it's called, ourselves to really help us with a few different specific tasks. And I'll give an example this morning. Like I wanted to improve listing copy for a new listing that we had going live, where the owners were concerned about renting to guests that have young children, given some of their high-end furnishings and artwork and antiques and that kind of thing. And Rory and I have gone back and forth about the legality of this in the first place. But one thing that we have decided, and I've gotten some good feedback from people in Facebook groups and our short-term rental secrets community as well, is that we can use the listing copy to help dissuade parents from booking, whether or not it's legal to physically exclude them. We could be a little heavy-handed in saying this might not be the right property for you. I fed that into ChatGPT and the listing and said, keep the format the same, just weave some copy into it. And sure enough, it did. And I liked what it said. And then I just replaced the listing copy that way. So, I'm sure that's just one of many examples that we're going to have. And someone's going to listen to this episode 3 years from now and think that's so rudimentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's moving so quick. I mean, since COVID, we've had like these new things that have been put across us with cryptocurrency and, NFTs and things and all of that. You could just sort of read between the lines and go, that's not really going to impact us in a massive way. Obviously, if you bought in a Bitcoin in 2011, then yeah, you're doing all right. But for the most part, it's not really impacted us. I think with this now, since November 2023, and when OpenAI dropped this ChatGPT, that's when I got onto it straight away. And I was like, wow, I can see how this impacts everybody. And, yes, there are being jobs that are being removed, but just like anything from all of our evolutions through our lifetimes and through our grandparents and parents' lifetimes and our grandparents' lifetimes, is that as we've evolved, jobs will go, but other things open. And, our kids, whatever our kids go on to do, yes, there may be certain roles that aren't here anymore, but there'll be new things, that opportunities that will open up for them. And I feel like if you bury your head in the sand and if you just ignore it and you don't do anything about it, you will get left behind. So the most smartest thing that everyone can do, doesn't matter what your age, what your technical ability is just start having a day-to-day dabble, because, it doesn't mean we're going to go and be in like a Minority Report future movie, like the documentary, the movie. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to be one of these crazy futures all of a sudden. It's going to be slow, and it's happening, a pretty rapid pace at what we look at. But at the moment, it's all just fancy new things and people are releasing their versions of it. Just start slow, open up the app, give it a go, start talking to it, because the more that you can tell it now, the more that it will stand during the good test of time in the future. And whatever tech you're using, they're already implementing it. Even like Hospitable, we talked about Hospitable, they're doing a lot at the moment when it comes to this sort of technology. And the main thing that it's doing for business owners is it's freeing up time. That's the main thing. It's making the most boring tasks. Like I remember back in the day, I had to copy and paste and there's no automations or anything. They're making it all now super smooth. And the biggest pain point I would say for most business owners, most hosts would say, it's answering guests. They're making that now where you don't have to do that. So you can have more time spent with your kids doing this thing that we like to call sleep and not have to worry about the business. And so that's cool. And hopefully it'll just keep on evolving down that route, and it gives us these amazing opportunities.
Mark, I really appreciate such a deep dive. I mean, like Mark, if you haven't figured this out by listening, Mark is one of the industry's, like forward-thinking visionaries. And I've seen you speak before at conferences. We have shared rooms together, despite the fact that you didn't know that I was staring at you as you were talking for a good hour to the audience. And we're delighted that you came on Smart Stay Show. If you want to keep listening to Mark, I encourage you to do that. Do not be afraid, American audience, of the boostly.co.uk URL. I know that we're used to the .coms here, but you have plenty of customers here in the United States. I know you've been to a number of the conferences around the world. Are you continuing to go to conferences this year and speak on stages? Yeah.
Yeah. So going to South Africa in July and then back to Dubai in October. But I'm getting ready for America next year because it's the FIFA World Cup. So I'm coming over for the World Cup next year.
It is. We're hosting some games at Gillette Stadium here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to coming over for it.
Yeah. So I encourage you to go check out Mark's stuff. Please follow him on Instagram and YouTube. His new YouTube channel is great. Reach out to Mark. How do you want people to reach out to you? Slide into your DMs like you did for us?
Yeah, exactly. Instagram is probably the coolest place. It's the easiest way to get hold of us. So Boostly UK. Unfortunately, there was a company who grabbed the Boostly handle years ago. So it's Boostly UK, but yeah, boostly.co.uk for the domain.
Right on. And Rory, where can people get a hold of you with your short-term rental business?
If you're looking for me, just go to str.legal, another non.com domain. And if that's too confusing for you, just go to rorygill.com and it'll redirect you to my business.
All right. Well, hey, I'll throw in the .com for smartstayshow.com. If you want to be a guest on the show or listen to any past episodes, please go right ahead there. We have everything posted on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere. We love your reviews, love your comments, and we'd love it if you're also going to be a guest on the show. Fill out a form. Let us know who you are and why you want to come on. Mark, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for all your time today. I can't wait until our next conversation sometime in the future. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but we'll have to maybe get you on the show live here when you're here in the United States, or we'll talk about the next iteration of direct bookings and AI, whatever that looks like in years to come.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.